Hello and welcome back to HCS Weekly. I'm your host, Shyway. And in case you guys didn't already know, we have massive news in the world of competitive Halo. Just last week, 343 announced that the final official competitive Halo 5 event would be DreamHack Atlanta. If you haven't booked your flight ticket, you better book it now. And with everything going on, there's so much to talk about. So I figured let's grab a knowledgeable guy and bring him on stream. Let's bring Knighty onto the show.
Hey, Alex, what's going on?
Not much, dude. In case you guys didn't already notice, not only do we have the same first name, we have the same haircut, we got the same beard game going on too. We're twinning all day today, man. How's it going?
Hey, I had it first though. Don't forget that.
You did. You had it first. I remember. You've had it. You've had it forever, man. You've been in Halo for such a long time before I was even thinking about Halo. And let's talk about that because I know you're a big Halo fan. You've been part of the scene forever. You've been a competitor and a caster. Where did it all begin? How did you get into Halo?
Well, I think it was just like any other young player. I love video games. I got an Xbox when it was released. Christmas Day, I got to play Halo 1 for the first time. Fell in love with it. Did not put down. And then it just went from there. I got LAN started with all my buddies after school. We would just head directly to my house. All of us. It would be like
you started the LANs. Nice.
Yeah, I did. It was like 16 dudes. Like we would have all our Xbox. It's like, hey, you grab your TV, you grab yours, you grab your Xbox, meet at my place. And then I don't know why, but mom was cool with it.
Wow.
We had an awesome time. And then, that escalated after Halo 2. I got super serious with better competition. I was always competing at like locals and stuff, but yeah, it just never stopped.
Man, I feel like LANs will never be the same again. I don't know. Something about the classic LAN setup. And when everybody has their own TV, like every team has their own TV and you get no screen peeking, it's so satisfying. Like some of my best childhood memories are playing LANs in Halo 2. So I completely relate with you there. So you started as a competitor, though. So you've been to a few tournaments as well. And at some point, I believe you teamed with Ninja. Is that true?
Yeah, and few is possibly an understatement. I've been to well over 100.
Oh my God.
Like I would say about 30. No, I'd say about 40 major LANs. And then, with locals mixed in there. But yeah, I did team with Ninja. I met him in 2009 when I was actually competing against him in Halo 3. And I first heard about him through the game battle circuit, playing 1v1s. He was like a 1v1 master. He never lost 1v1s. It was him and a little small group of people. And he played in the Dr. Pepper, I believe, championship on main stage against Mac, his teammate. And he lost by like 1 kill because Mac just clutched it with snipe. But yeah, I just knew that he was very talented and I needed to get him on my team. So my buddy Luckside, who'd been trying to team with me forever, he said, hey, let's put a team together for Halo Reach when Halo Reach drops. We're going to get a head start on this thing. We're going to practice as hard as we can for this new game, and we're going to try to go pro because there was a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, there was a combine at this same event where Halo 3 was starting to dwindle down. And so it was just mainly all amateurs. And we placed fifth, unfortunately. We were like one of the top teams going into it. People had predicted us to win the event, but when it came down to it, we just weren't able to. We actually played against Adrenaline and Amish Acorns team, and if anybody watched Amish Acorns at that event, he actually won the free for all, and he was just a freak right out of the gate at that game. So it was hard to play against, but when I practiced with Ninja, like I knew right away that he had the right mentality. He was fun to be around. He took the losses really, really hard. And some people, say that was probably one of his weakest, things to his game. But like, I have to disagree. I think that's one of his strongest things is that he wants to improve so badly. He's looking at every little detail. He's a perfectionist. He's always getting the team to get on. He always wants to practice. He's got tons of drive, and he's never stopped. Like from the day I met him till now.
Yeah, man, the grind is so real. I mean, look at it's paid off. And I keep saying this. I'm going to probably keep talking about this. But if you're a gamer and you make it on the Ellen show, like it's over, man. It's like you made it. That's that's the ultimate dream right there, to stand up beside like one of the most popular individuals in the entire world. So he's been
Very
grinding so
true.
hard. But it's amazing that you were part of that journey though too. You've been heavily into competing, like you said. You jumped on Reach nice and early in Halo 4. You actually won an event in Halo 4. Is that true? The I think it was
Uh,
like Iron.
I won lower tier. I never won a
Oh,
major.
okay, okay.
I
Nothing
yeah,
major
I
with
won
it.
locals, lots of locals,
Yeah.
tons of locals, but yeah, never a major. I was the best placing at a major was top 20, so I was always pretty
Yeah.
much considered an amateur.
Mm.
I'd have high placings at the combines, but never. Whenever it came against top teams or playing against the pros at events, I usually had last minute teams. I never really had a team that could quite compete. But yeah, for the locals, yeah, I won Halo 2, a throwback. I won a H2A when H2A just dropped.
Nice.
Not Halo 4, not Halo 4 though. The highest placing I got was at AGL 9. I played
Mm.
against Severance, which was Gabriel, Goofy, Spartan
Nice.
the dog, and Proverb, and we took them to a game 5. But then there was like this big issue with settings, and we had to replay the game 5 that we won like 50
Somebody's
to
controller
40.
disconnect.
No, it was like the settings were
I'm
set
kidding.
for like 2v2,
Yeah.
and so the
Oh,
yeah, unfortunately it wasn't a Spartan disconnect. That would have been a much better
yeah.
because we would
Just
have taken the
making a bad
W.
joke.
Yeah, it's still a sore spot for sure because we would have gone
Oh,
and
I
made money.
bet.
But yeah, we
Yeah.
got fourth at that event, and that was a fun one. I was actually with Rob the Turtle for that one.
Nice, nice. So a lot of players who are either like massive successes now in competitive Halo or still like on the come up, still amazing players. Is competing something that still interests you today, or would you say it's all history now at this point?
Oh man, as a true competitor, I don't think it ever
It's a
goes
tough
away.
question.
I think
Yeah.
everybody can. Uh, I've spoken to so many talent throughout the 3 years that I've been casting, and
Yeah.
what I've noticed is that a lot of them feel that way still. That they love the competition, and that's what keeps them casting. That's what
Yeah.
helps to cast. I would say some of the best casters are the people that thrive to get back into the arena.
Yeah. Yeah. They just love it so much, and they want to be a part of it as much as possible, as long as possible. You still have, especially in the fighting game community, you still have competitive gamers who are like 36, like 40 years old, who're still going, making it work. FPS, maybe a different story, very hard area to compete. But you transitioned to casting. How did you get into casting? When did that happen?
Well, a good buddy of mine, Proverb, he during the AGL days was working with AGL Brad, and AGL Brad was making AGL happen on the production side all by himself. And
Okay.
so Proverb was learning from him, and he was also learning from his younger brother, Proverb. His name was Proverb as well. But they started to make things happen. They were trying to, acquire sponsorships and make tournaments happen. And
Mhm.
along the way, they wanted to grab me up to have me on camera and to be a color commentator for some online
Nice.
tournaments. And I kind of got the bug, I guess you'd say. Like I felt,
Yeah.
I just felt it. I felt like I kind of belonged there, and they saw that too. They were like, "Oh man, he's kind of like a natural on the camera." So I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll try this out." And I just never stopped.
Yeah. Was it voluntary, the first one? Or
Well,
was it
not
like
really. They kind of pushed me out there. They were like, "Hey man, we
really?
really need you go do this." And I was
Lucky
like,
you. Because I was
"Yeah,
gonna say, like, for the viewers watching, you want to get into casting. I feel like it's a tough gig. The biggest thing is you got to just throw yourself at it, even if it's voluntary. Like, put yourself into those opportunities as much as possible. But looks like you just
totally."
had the connections from the get go too.
No,
Yeah,
that's the big part too. It's who knows
yeah,
you, not who you
yeah.
know. So you really need to spread yourself
Right.
out. You need to talk to as many people as possible. You need to see where the opportunities are, and you need to not ever pass up any opportunity to make yourself better, to really hone your craft. I mean, it's like anything
Yeah,
else, really. You can compare it
yeah.
to anything. It's just practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think even if you're like a competitive gamer now and casting isn't something that you're even thinking about, just the fact that like if you find yourself constantly talking about the games that you love to compete in, you know what I mean? And continuing to build that skill set of communication, and then you might be able to directly apply it in the future. So I think it's such a great way to stay connected with the things that you love. And now you're still casting. And I know recently you casted for UGC in the 2v2. We just saw some of that, the finals of that. That's so sick to watch, by the way. I love watching 2v2 gameplay for Halo 5. But you're
Me
not
too.
just doing that. You're involved in Team Beyond as well. And you're casting Black Ops 4. So what's going on right there? Are you still on the casting grind? How do you practice your craft?
Yeah, I haven't been working this much since I started. I've started to really gain more
Nice.
momentum as far as shows I've been working, and um, I would say that practice is more off screen. I would say getting the shows is important, but off screen it's all about preparation. You want to know as much
Mhm.
information as possible going in. You want to be over prepared.
Right.
You want to be
Right.
to the
Definitely.
point where you have so much information you can't even get it out in one broadcast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
big. And then the other thing
Mhm.
is going back and watching your show, listening to your voice, seeing how you react to certain scenarios and
Yeah.
seeing what you can do to improve. And that is honestly for me the hardest part because I don't, most people I hear from, they're like, oh, I can't listen to my own voice. And that's kind of true for me too. I don't like listening to
Yeah.
myself. So it's
Mhm.
really tough to do that. That's very important. That's one of those things that you just cannot skip or you're
Yeah.
really cheating yourself.
Yeah, as somebody who's very focused on public speaking, you have to listen to your. It's the same as studying gameplay, right? Like you've got to rewatch your matches and study it and pick up what you've learned, right? So casting Black Ops 4 though, you just came off of a Black Ops 4 event, is that correct? How's that going?
Yeah, Team Beyond picked me up for that, the new Call of Duty Black Ops 4, and so far I've just been loving the game, so that really helps. I
Yeah, it's good.
absolutely am passionate about this game. I've been playing Blackout, I've been playing Zombies, I've been playing
Oh my
everything
god,
and anything. I've been really
it's
learning the
taken
game.
over.
I know.
Yeah,
I've been going to YouTube. I've been checking out old Black Ops 2 events just to kind of, see, how it was all done back in the day. And I feel like Black Ops 4 just kind of took off right where Black Ops 2 was. Like I just enjoyed the hell out of Black Ops 2, and now this is pretty much the same game for me. Yeah, I did some Halo 5 tournaments for Team Beyond, where I did some free
mhm,
for all and some 2v2s. But last night was my first Call of Duty one, and I did it with Onset,
nice.
and
Yeah, I saw that.
he's brilliant. So it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Man's a wizard on the comms. Do you find that like transitioning between Halo and Black Ops, do the skills that you gain from Halo directly contribute to your Black Ops, like understanding your ability to cast Black Ops? Is it similar? I feel like the game would flow very quickly, right? Because especially with time to kill, things like that.
Yeah. The time to kill makes it so that you have to speak very fastly, very fast. You cannot say anything like for more than I'd say 5 or 10 seconds. Like if you're going on a big rant, it's got to
Yeah.
be a big stalemate and like a search and destroy.
Yeah, but I think Halo's your one true love, right? In the end of the day, I
Oh
know that
yeah.
we're getting to the end of HCS. Do you still want to join the HCS talent roster? Because that's an amazing. Like I want to get on that. I know I want Wonder Boy on there too. The three of us actually casted together at EGLX, and we all would love to be a bigger part of that. So what are you thinking? Are you still on the grind for HCS?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that eventually it'll grow big enough to fit us in those slots. Eventually, some of the bigger names are starting to maybe outgrow Halo and possibly
Ooh,
going on to bigger and better things, and that's kind of the
that
natural
too.
progression of it.
Yeah,
But yeah, I would love to. I was at pretty much all the HCS events in 2016. I casted the UGC HCS in 2017. So I've been pretty much looking. That's been my goal is to make sure that I'm one of the officials on the Halo desk, making sure that I can analyze it, and that really helps me to up my game because when you get called upon like that, it
yeah,
says to you, hey, you need to make sure that you are tip top.
yep.
You're training harder. You're going in and you're making sure you study everything, that you
Yeah.
have everything ready, and that's fun. Challenging yourself is always a good thing.
Agreed. Yeah, man. I respect the grind. I hope that both of us are there. I hope I see you there, man. That would be awesome. That'd be a dream. So we got a lot of there'll be more room, I think, if Halo Infinite is as big as we all hope it is, then I think there'll be a lot of room on that table.
Oh yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about the state of Halo now. Let's get into the nitty gritty.
Okay.
First, with your background in MCC, because right now Halo is in an interesting position with 343's recent work building up MCC. Halo 5 is finishing its competitive season, which we'll talk about. The remaining community has kind of been split up into little pockets at this point across all the titles. And I know you've been playing a lot of MCC, you've been following its progress since the launch in September. I haven't played much MCC at all, unfortunately. So I was wondering, how has your experience with the game been? Are you enjoying it so far? Do you feel like in 2018, is it still fresh playing these classic Halo titles?
Well, obviously, I was one of the guys that was very let down, and tried
Yeah.
sticking with it. I wanted to stick with it. I wanted to be with MCC for a long time. I wanted to get on many days, but it just made it so difficult because I wanted to play with my older friends who loved Halo, and they would get on, and I would plan it out because they're busy at work, and I would say, "Hey, be on this day," and they're like, "Well, I've only got 3 hours to play," and I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah.
And they would get on, and it would take literally all of those 3 hours just for us to get into the same party, and it's like, I mean, that happened forever. And
Mhm.
so that really was a letdown. But then fast forward to now, and finally they fixed a lot of those issues. And I
Uh-huh.
can finally get into a party with my buddies. We can immediately get into a game because the
That sounds
population
fun.
is there and we have a blast. I had some of the best time on Halo that I've ever had playing the Insider because they just had one playlist every week testing it
Right.
out. And so everybody was in there. The population was massive and we were
That's the
just
thing.
grinding.
That's why everybody loves. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just thinking that's why
You're fine.
betas are so amazing in games too. Because in betas, like they just have like two or three playlists, and everybody's funneled into the same location. And because the action is just so funneled like that, you get exactly what you want. You get in, you get out. You know what I mean? It's just fun. You play with your friends. You get matches quick, and then the game comes out, and there's like a million playlists, and the community's all over the place, and you wonder why you're not catching all these matches. But anyway, so you're finally getting into games. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And what about the
and it
gameplay?
feels great. It feels great.
Yeah.
The game, the Halo 3 especially, feels a lot more like the original. It does not
Nice.
feel like the hitboxes were so weird in the 60 frames with high definition. It just didn't feel the
Okay.
same. So now that's all
Mhm.
fixed, and it feels like original Halo 3 now. My shots are registering much better. Obviously you're going to have issues with hosts and stuff, but we we got to play at the Microsoft Store. My first time landing MCC, and
Nice.
I had an incredible time. I mean, there was a lot of people that showed up. There was probably I think about 16 people, maybe 20
Nice.
people in all, but some people couldn't find teams. So we had 8
Mhm.
teams playing, and I was able to take the win. And man, we had some sweaty games. Like
Nice.
it came down to the wire. I mean, I'm washed, man. If I can just win one game against these kids that
Yeah.
don't miss a shot, I'm
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. That's amazing though. Like the fact that you can come back and land and everything were like there were no hiccups, like you didn't disconnect and the shots are feeling
No,
good. It feels like Halo 3
yeah,
should feel. Finally, it's nice to just hear that that's a thing. So, do you think
yep.
you think it holds up? You think that like in 2018 there's like a really good reason to go back even though we have like COD and all that the other games on the market right
Well,
now?
obviously nostalgia plays a big
Yeah.
part, but I have to argue that because the game has pretty much stayed the same for about 10 years now. Um,
Mhm.
as far as settings wise and the way it plays. I mean, meta has changed a little bit in 2010,
Yeah.
but it's pretty much the basic game. And there's still new people coming on to Halo 3 and enjoying the heck
Yeah.
out of it. They're like, oh, this game is amazing. I got to play this all the time. And and that's incredible. That really shows that the game can last, that it's a true Halo is what I call it. I'm not a
Yeah.
big fan of calling it, classic. I mean, the classic's cool, but I call it true Halo because that's what it is. It is true
Mm.
Halo. I feel like it's the only way to really play Halo is having
Mm.
no sprint, making sure that you're playing the map, making sure your positioning is always key, not having clamber or abilities like that to kind of give you a one up over people that might have made a better decision than you. Um,
Yeah.
so so I just feel like Halo 3 has a very, very good opportunity here. I can't really gauge it yet. Obviously, we got to see
Mm.
at Atlanta. Um, the viewership isn't really going to be what dictates for me how successful it was. I think it's really going to be the quality of games. I think
Hmm.
once we see the finals, because I think we're going to see like quarterfinals, semifinals, and then finals. I think if we see some amazing games and people go back and they watch it and they talk about it and it creates
Yeah.
discussion, it creates buzz and it creates hype. It doesn't matter how many people watched. It's all about it's all about
Yeah.
that feeling you have after the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's still possible too. And I think it's, if you get the right personalities in, and I want to touch on this a little later too, because I have questions like directly related to it. So I'm going to probably skip over some of this for now and then go right back to it. But yeah, it's definitely possible too for like, if you think of other games like Counter-Strike, it's been the same forever, right? And it's lasted for so long, and it's still amazing today on just its core fundamentals. Or a game like Smash Bros. Melee that's been out for 17 years and still has such a huge following, right? So as far as Halo coming out in 2008 and still being relevant 10 years later, it's definitely possible. I think that there's definitely excitement that can be drawn from the game. As far as true Halo goes, you're right in a sense that I think like the peak of Halo, like when Halo was at its best, it was Halo 3, right? For like, it was unanimously agreed upon as an amazing game. As far as what the best Halo is, like going on into Infinite, whether or not we want no abilities versus abilities, I'm a little split on that. I think that I want abilities of some sort. I think that it needs to have some sort of you need to evolve the gameplay, but the difficulty that we had with Halo 5 was that low, there's a high skill floor getting past that, and having just fast, fun gameplay, immediately getting into engagements. I feel like I'm jumping over the topics that I want to get into. So real quick, let's go back to this question that I have here, because it's nice to know that there's progress being made in MCC, because I'm sure you've heard the big news that dropped by 343 last week. I've talked about this a couple times now. HCS Atlanta is the final official Halo 5 event. So we're 3 years in. We're at the end of the line. It's the end of Halo 5 at this point. So what do you think of this news then? What do you think they're planning next after what we've heard?
Well, I like to stay optimistic. I feel like that's the best approach, no matter what, especially dealing with Halo and the way it's been throughout its history. If you
Mm,
stay optimistic, usually you can pretty much stay at a good mindset and you can bring about good feedback because they do listen. They don't listen to people who are negative. So if you're constantly saying things in a positive way, then 343 will, they'll reply to you, they'll talk to you, there'll be an open discussion, which we need a lot more of. I'm part of Team
yeah,
Beyond. Team Beyond can get pretty crazy, but when things get good and people make good posts, that really is important. And they 343 is at the events, they listen to people, and staying
yeah,
positive is really key. So Halo 5 ending isn't a bad thing. A lot of people have been grinding for this tournament. This is a big open tournament. Unfortunately, teams probably aren't going to be as practiced as they need to be, but I do
yeah. I want to
feel
cover
like,
that as well.
yeah, okay, but yeah, I just I feel like it's fine. I feel like it's going to be okay. And what's going forward is opportunity for what we just talked about, either Halo 3 or maybe going
Mhm.
back to 2A and 343, maybe adding some tweaks in there. I know that they were
Yeah.
talking about spectator mode a long time ago. I don't know if that might
Oh,
be in development. That would be cool. There's a
yeah,
lot of maybe they release another map. Maybe there's a midship. Um,
yeah,
there's opportunities here for a good year or two. I'm not sure when if Infinite will release, but I think we'll definitely have a good year. I think the lack of announcements is definitely making people nervous, like it always does. Any
yeah,
transparency that isn't being had, it just makes people a little on edge. I think 343 is still growing, very much in the growth phase. They have a little bit
yeah,
more to go until they're really honed in on what they want to do. They're building their vision with Infinite, and I'm personally in the camp that they can take as long as they want on that game because
yeah,
um, you know it's got to be good. A good game is it's going to be worth the wait. But a bad game, it's going to stay bad forever. I mean, that was kind of
yeah.
what the quote was from the Nintendo guy. I always read that on all of the Reddit posts and the under gaming. It's just
Who,
you've
Reggie?
got time and make a good quality. Reggie.
Not Reggie. I just first you said Nintendo guy, and I was like, Reggie's the Nintendo guy, dude.
Asian name can't place right now.
Okay. But you're right. You're right. You need to make a good game, and that's going to involve a lot of communication between 343 and the community, and whatever they do to build it up. And I do agree that you can have an optimistic perspective on this recent news because they're not pulling out altogether, right? So they've talked about two important things in the article they put up last week. There's a grassroots section, and there's a section about MCC. So actually, Tony, if you can throw up the grassroots, here we have. Right here, it says later this year, we're kicking off a program to support grassroots tournaments and content creators across all Halo titles. We'll have full details to share at DreamHack Atlanta. We believe that Halo esports is only as successful as the community and foundation it's built upon, and investing in grassroots is an important part of setting that foundation for the future. Stay tuned. We're excited to share more information next month, including how you can get involved to play, watch, and apply. So what do you think of this then, right? They're trying to support grassroots tournaments and content creators as well. We'll switch back to the regular screen here. There we go.
I think this is wonderful news. Personally, I've been involved in the Beachlands, which have been hosting Halo 1 down in Florida. You know, pretty much the tip top of talent in the world, pretty much. Those guys are all incredible. Ogre 2 came down there a few times.
Nice.
Yeah, he smacked everybody around and then didn't show up again. But
I saw the Ogre twins playing together actually too. Not to totally segue. That was sick to watch. Ogre 1 and Ogre 2 playing Halo 1 together on Twitch. Like what?
Yeah, it's a dream. It's something that everybody, always hears about. Back in the day, it was kind of the same way. It's like before Halo 2, you always heard about the ogres, but you never got to see what they look like. You never got to see their gameplay. We just always had this like name in our heads, the ogres. They're like the legendary guys that just can't be beat. So so that's kind of what it is now too. It's like the newer kids that are like 14, 15, they hear about the ogres and they're like, who are the ogres, And so they go and they watch and they maybe go into the Halo 1 playlist and get wrecked 50-0. And they're like, oh, that's who the ogres are.
So then Beachland, that's a good point. Like that's an important initiative that's been developing. I know there's also like PBL Halo, there's Team Beyond that you've been doing work with. There's UGC that's had events. So I'm wondering, how would they support it? Do you have any ideas on like how they might, like, I guess maybe, increased social media, or maybe they can throw some really, awesome casters into the mix, personalities into these events, and like really kind of build up their viewership?
Yeah, I think all of that is probably going to be what's going to happen. I think their writers are going to be big time on top of it, making sure that they're covering the events. There's going to be a ton of content, and they just have a lot more freedom on the production side since they're not focused on other things like, finding locations and on the business end. They're really putting the community in the driver's seat now, and it's up to us to make sure that we're having a lot of involvement. A lot like Melee. Melee has survived this long since 2001, basically with no developer support from Nintendo
at all.
So
Nintendo actually wasn't even a fan of the fact that they were still playing the game. They had to fight the power. Yeah, man,
exactly.
Amazing.
So pretty much that, but we're gonna have some help, and I'm excited to hear. I think it's good news. I think the Microsoft stores up in Canada with your boy Voodoo Man taking the reins and putting on shows. At the Greater Toronto Halo, that's just kind of the start of it for me, like showing that grassroots really means something still in this community. And now that LAN is back in Master Chief Collection, I think there's just so much opportunity for us to be like Call of Duty was back in like 2007, 2008, when it was, really grasping, trying to get into the light. And the thing that really drove them was the fact that they were hosting so many tournaments online, and then so many people were coming together and making good content.
Yeah. I mean, now you got me thinking, like, not to fantasize too much. Like, I know that HCS has all their resources focused on their main tournament, and that's the focal point. That's where all the viewership goes. But let's say instead they build up all the community events, and the local grassroots communities get bigger. So for local competitors, people who maybe aren't on the top of the food chain, like it gives them more opportunity to join more events that weren't previously accessible to them, maybe. So like maybe they're playing Halo even more as a result of this initiative. I don't know how it would be for the players like, the Snipe Down showdowns and the guys who are super successful and are, want to make some money. Hopefully there's some good tournaments that offer that. But I think for the community, for the gamers who are, who are grinding, who don't have that recognition, I think there might be a lot more opportunity. Not to, maybe I'm just fantasizing. I think that'd be pretty cool though.
No, that's not a fantasy at all. I think that's where 343 definitely wanted to. I think that's what their point was that, hey, we're going to back you guys. So if you guys show us a good tournament, so let's use UGC, obviously, because I think every UGC I've been to has been very successful tournament-wise. They've always ran real smooth, and they were incredible shows. Nice. I love going to UGC tournaments. If 343 studies that, they already have a history at going there, so they're going to see it and they're going to support it, and they'll put in maybe enough money so that the pros, it'll be worth their time to travel. The orgs will see it and they'll be like, oh wow, this is getting a lot of buzz, and then we'll get bigger orgs maybe coming in. And that's not a fantasy. That's something that could possibly happen.
That can happen. I'd like to see that happen. That'd be awesome. And then they had news just underneath that. There's a paragraph about MCC as well. Tony, do you have that? Can we throw that up? There we go. I don't know how much I want to read here, but the recent updates and improvements to MCC, we've seen more feature work underway. There's a renewed sense of excitement and reinvigoration for these games, particularly with Halo 3. We're excited to support this with the 2v2 showdown at DreamHack Atlanta, and would like to continue to deliver similar experiences in the future. The scope and specifics of potential MCC competitive offerings will be largely dependent on how well the 2v2 showdown performs in terms of participation and viewership. That's an interesting point right there. We're eager to kick this off, and we'll be keeping a close eye on the community response as we continue to evaluate plans and opportunities for MCC moving forward. So what they're saying, and I know we're going to have support for MCC when they're already saying with the grassroots initiatives and whatnot, but could there be something bigger in store than just grassroots, assuming this 2v2 showdown goes well? I don't know.
They're definitely giving themselves options. You can't ever know for sure. And I think that's the big reason they're not committing themselves in an announcement. They don't want to, they don't want to jump the gun. They want to make sure they're making the right moves. They've been learning from the mistakes from the past 5 to 6 years. And they want to make it right. They want to do well. I mean, this is their job. This is their career. This is their passion. I used to play with Tashi back in Halo 2. The guy, loved it. We played game battles. We scrimmed together. I mean, I'd always whoop up on him in free-for-alls and stuff, but he loves Halo. He is all about Halo. He wants to see the esports side of things really grow. Yeah. I mean, despite what a lot of people would say, those people at 343 want it to thrive. I mean, there's no reason for them not to.
Yeah. And I know, and I'm a big Halo 5 fan, and I know that there's a lot of new Halo 5 fans that have developed with the new game coming out. So if you are a Halo 5 fan and you're in any way worried about, the fact that we're doing classic style Halo tournaments and whatnot, I feel like you shouldn't be at all. I feel like at the end of the day, is Halo growing? Is Halo as a franchise growing? Is Halo as a franchise getting support? That's all that matters. The fact that people are loving and playing Halo.
Alex, you got to think about Halo and exactly where it stands in our culture. Worldwide and in America or North America, it is such a huge fandom. Like, it's obviously the esports side of it is very, very tiny, very tiny.
Right. That's one aspect.
You got to compare it to things like Star Wars at this point and Star Trek. I mean, Star Wars is obviously the greatest of all time franchise. It's made the most money of anything ever. But Halo is definitely, as far as sci-fi is concerned, it's up there. Like when you talk about things like that, you have to mention Halo because there's so much in the story. There's so much on the side, like building with Forge. People, that's all they do. They get in there and they want to design new maps. They want to have fun with that. They build new custom games. I mean, there is so much more to Halo than just the competitive side. Halo as a franchise probably, I mean, I don't want to be too bold, but I'm going to say it's never going away.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I hope it isn't, and that's the thing. Like we're getting support and Halo as a franchise. If Halo as a franchise is growing, then I can't not be happy about that. I think that's
That's right.
amazing news, and I hope that keeps happening. And one thing I was thinking is like, is this an opportunity with this focus on MCC? Can they bring back some of the OG guys for some fun events? Because I think at the end of the day, like the personalities is what really sells and brings back popularity in Halo. Like imagine having Strongside and Walshy competing, or like the Ogre Twins or Roy and Lunch, who recently disappeared, and I'd love to see them come
Mm.
back. Like, how amazing would that be to have an event with some of these big names with such a massive following? I think that that's kind of the viewership that we need, and that's what we need, building us up into Halo Infinite. I think that's what would be so
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. Roy
Yeah.
was such a class act. He's one of those guys that the fans can really get behind as one of their like role
Yeah.
models. Just a guy that
Mhm.
just really does no wrong on the field in the arena, or he does no wrong, on the mic, on social media. The guy is just all
Yeah.
around a true professional. And Lunchbox is is just as good. He just likes to speak his mind a lot more. He's
Yeah.
very blunt when it comes to things. I've always loved that about him. He's a true leader. I've always loved those twins. Watching them compete was incredible. They were actually the
Yeah.
first professional team that I ever competed against at an MLG. I made
Wow.
pro
Boy,
bracket
did you
in
get
Halo
bodied.
3.
I'm kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad.
Damn, dude. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like Roy and Lunch, like even over Halo 5, like I mean, they for everything in Halo, they've been such massive personalities. But just following them with Towie's videos, like Towie put out some of the best content in
Hmm.
Halo. And following their stories and Ogre and Snipe Down and getting those personal interviews, like it's so hard to not root for EG and love EG and want to see
Yeah.
those guys succeed. Like when they left, it was such a huge hit to Halo as an entire community. So I would
What
love
you
to see those
said
guys make a return.
What you said makes so much sense. Across the board in any esports, you watch CS:GO, you watch League of Legends, Dota. They're going to have entire
Yeah.
segments on people's personal lives. They get down to the
Yeah.
the hurt,
Yeah.
the pain, the things that really matter in life, their loved ones, the way they grew up. I mean, they know everything about them, and they're what these professionals are willing to say, how vulnerable they're willing to get, and that really
Yeah.
is what speaks to people, is seeing that genuine care for the game that they're
Yeah.
playing. That's what really hits home for people. I know personally, I've watched games that I don't even like because I enjoy watching the players and seeing what their
Yeah.
stories are and seeing the
Yeah.
rivalries. And
Yeah.
so just imagine if we really can grow that in Halo. Um, it would be phenomenal. It would really be amazing. I know for a little while we had some stuff like that in the beginning with Halo World
Yeah.
Championship, the first one, when they went to, I believe it was the X Games. There was some very good videos that we had that were really touching on, like, Nated's history of never winning an
Mm.
event and this being his chance and blah blah blah, and all of
Yeah.
that stuff that you can really put into a show. That's
Yeah.
really what matters, and I think HCS has been building on that. We just saw Gfinity do it, and I got to
Yeah.
say,
That was
Gfinity had
great.
some of the
Yeah.
best content I've ever seen.
Yeah, we need so much more of that. That's so true. And I think bringing out the personalities of these players, that's what grows the games. That's what makes like puts these games on the map. It's actually making me think, and I draw so many Smash Bros references all the time, but there's one of the ways that I find the Smash community does a really good job of drawing out personality in players is they have this event called the Summit. I'm not sure if you've heard of like Smash Summit before. It happens multiple times a year. They have to vote the players into the summit, and they all go to a house basically. So all of
Oh
the
wow.
community tallies up these votes on the best players they think that deserves to go to the summit house. And then everybody goes into the house together, the top 16 players that are selected, and they grind for like 3 days. And all of it's filmed on twitch.tv. They're competing against each other. They play fun games. They do drinking games. They play Mafia. Like you get to explore their personalities and see
You
not
know what
only,
that reminds me
the
of?
gameplay, but the guy behind it. Yeah. What?
That reminds me of what we had. I don't know if you heard of it. It's the LAN network.
Oh, I have heard of something like that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had that back in Halo 3, and it was created by a pro player's dad, Tots. And
Mhm.
They would get about 8 teams, 8 professional teams. The top 8 teams in the world would go out to their house and land for about a week.
That's so sick.
And
Yeah.
dude, it's that's kind of what it sounds like right there is basically like the Halo version of Summit. And that's
Mm.
exactly what I'm talking about. They had like cameras in the corners of like the living room, so when there was
Yeah.
downtime, you could
Yeah.
watch them chilling on the couch and talking. I mean, it
Yeah.
was the wildest thing. It was so far ahead of its time.
Yeah, that's exactly what Halo needs, honestly. When I see that stuff with Summit, I'm like, this is what makes me love these Smash, like the game. This is what makes the game thrive, is because we love the personalities. We get to see them in all these different environments. It's not just playing the game. It's like I want to, interact with these people. I want to know who they are. I want to, have a reason to continue to love this game and to continue to grind. It's what inspires the grind. So I
It
think
really
if
is.
somehow they can hit their stride, we got all these community initiatives coming up. If with Infinite, they can somehow find a way to give us more behind the player. Even Gears is doing it, man. Like Gears it's overlapped Halo in popularity recently. Gears has all these videos like but behind the scenes profiles on players, and they're like super high quality production value. We need more of that in Halo. Gfinity did an amazing job. I think that sets a precedent. I would love to see more. So with everything that's happening with Halo, we've got the final Halo Vive event. We've got renewed focus on H3. We've got Call of Duty being released or is released. There's been one hell of a stir in recent Halo 5 HCS news as well. And Atlanta's coming up, but teams are changing everywhere. A lot's going on. So check out these tweets. I got 3 tweets coming up. We're going to bring up the first one. So we've got Fallicated and Boo Boo duo reunite with the recent roster change from Accelerate, joined by Arctic and Demon D's. This is a brand new team that's just been formed last minute. Here we got Fallicated and Boo Boo coming on. And then we've got Ace, who recently joined, Spartan, L-Town, Sabinator on Elevate. So that's a new roster once again. And all of this is happening last second. And then this is so unfortunate. Musa, who was part of Trifecta, which is, I'd say, like a top 8, maybe top 6 squad. They've been performing very well. And he left Trifecta. He just had a falling out. And I think it had something to do with Trifecta having a split focus on Call of Duty and Halo, and that Musa would have had to compete also in Call of Duty, and he didn't want to also do Call of Duty. So it's just unfortunate seeing all that. Moses had a funny tweet as well. Do we have that? Can we throw that up? HCS is like a mama bird kicking her babies out of the nest. It's going to be really interesting seeing who flies and who smacks the pavement. Oh my God. It's savage, but it's kind of true. Like there's so much roster mania happening. There's players, leaving orgs, joining orgs. It's happening last minute. You've got Splice, where they have 1 foot in Halo, 1 foot in Call of Duty. You've got Frosty, who's focused on Call of Duty and also is going to be playing at this event. So what's going to happen at Atlanta, do you think? Like who's going to take this tournament? Is it going to be crazy?
Well, obviously, a lot of time is being put towards Call of Duty, so the players are going to have to get on last minute to, at least get their shots in, to really warm up. But I don't think teams like Splice or, Tox are really going to have that much of an issue, because it's like riding a bike. Once you get your training to a certain level, it's all about keeping it consistent. And, they're just freaks. I mean, you can't say it any other way.
Yeah.
Tox are freaks. They haven't been out of the top 2. Those 4 players have not been out of the top 2 in Halo 5.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that was a Moses tweet as well, right? She showcased all of their history. Man, Moses is just killing it. Like shout outs to Moses for the amazing tweets.
He does. Him and Halo Data Hive, they do a lot for statistics for guys like us who love to watch the numbers. They give us a lot of, they give us a lot to work with on our shows.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, if history shows, like from what we've seen from Tox and the fact they've been in every single grand finals, which is insane, you would expect it to happen again, even with everything that's going on. But it does make me wonder if there's openings for other teams that have been grinding a lot, been working together for a long time, that haven't switched their focus, that haven't been playing Call of Duty, that haven't had roster changes. Maybe there's an opportunity there, or maybe Reciprocity. I feel like Reciprocity, like I don't hear them talking about Call of Duty. Snipedown's grinding Halo hard still. I'm wondering if that means that, Reciprocity might be going in as the strongest version of themselves coming into Atlanta, whereas Tox might, like Tox is still amazing, Splice is still amazing, but they are still thinking about Call of Duty a little bit. Does this give Reciprocity an opening that they need to dominate? This is the final Halo event. So I feel like this means more than anything,
I think that's a really strong bet to say that Pistola is in the running for the highest prize pool at an open Halo event. I mean, this is the biggest one that we've had. So to put money on Snipe Down and Pistola,
Yeah.
that's not bad. That's pretty smart. They know how to focus up when they need to the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reciprocity, though, they've seen some inconsistencies. It's really going to require Trippy and Saiyan to show what they're truly made of when it matters the most. And I don't think we've seen that yet. I don't think we've seen Reciprocity really play up to what they can do. Once the pressure is at the highest, once you're getting into the finals like that, and you're playing against a team that is as good or better than you've really are in new territory. And if you're playing up against Tox, you're playing against people that are very comfortable in that territory. So it's going to be a really tough uphill battle for Trippy and Saiyan. But I do think that Reciprocity roster is very strong. Obviously, they've won online tournaments. They were able to make some upsets happen on LAN. They're really starting to feel themselves. They're starting to get more experience together as a unit, as friends, being able to talk together. That's huge. Building the bonds, trusting each other more. That's a thing that you really don't see on camera. You don't get to see it in the game, but it's there. It lingers. It's in the communication. It's that trust you have that you build over time. That's something that the amateur players just don't ever get because they're always switching it up. So pros know that, and now Snipe Down and Pistola are going to be more confident than ever, being able to trust Saiyan's ability, because Saiyan, to me, watching him over the past 2 years, has shown so much growth in his ability. He's just incredible when he's on fire. When he's on fire, I'd have to say he's up there with like Shotzi and Frosty. Like, he's that good. He definitely has the capability to win a tournament. It's just all about him actually doing it.
Yeah. I think I don't know if it's fair to say, like, his shot reminds me of Snipe Down's kind of. Like, his shot's insane. It's like, I don't know if I want to say like a young Snipe Down or something, but like, he doesn't miss shots when he's on point. And like, he's not, yes, he does amazing movement stuff too. It's not as much as like somebody like Shotzi or Frosty, but his shot is just insane, and he does not back down on confidence. Like, he makes the right plays, the smart plays all the time. It's like such a joy to watch.
One thing you can't see about Saiyan, though, that really impresses me is his ability to take a loss and to take criticism. When I watch streams, he's always very positive. I mean, there are times when he gets a little on tilt, which is always going to happen for a young player, taking on that much pressure and stress. It's always going to happen. Nobody's perfect. Pistola has always been one of those players you look at and you're just like, how is this guy like making jokes right now? There's $1 million on the line. Like, so, he's kind of like that. He makes his team comfortable. And that's a big, big thing. And I feel like he's kind of a leader on that team as well. And that's important. Yeah. So I'm looking for big things from that roster, but we've got to remember that, a team like Trifecta was able to upset them at one of the events where they were hyped up to be, the winners, which was New Orleans. So it was very sad for me to see that Trifecta broke up. I think Musa wanted to play with other people in Call of Duty. He didn't want to stick with the Halo roster. So he wanted to still team in Halo, but he didn't want to team with them in Call of Duty. And I guess that was an issue with the Trifecta brand. I'm only, these are only assumptions. I can't say for sure. But, just judging from what I saw on the tweets, people are pretty open about things, and, you can just kind of put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, no, you're right. I misspoke there. It was Musa. I think he was like looking into teaming with maybe other people for Call of Duty. And yeah, I saw a bit of that on Twitter as well. And it's unfortunate, right? Because like you said, Trifecta was the team that was able to upset Reciprocity. Though Wonderboy did make a good point when I interviewed him last time, where he talked about the fact that Reciprocity still has defeated everyone. They've defeated Splice, they've defeated Tox, they've tasted the victory. They know what it's like to be in that seat, to take that position. So they can definitely do it again. But yeah, with a team like Trifecta that was, also very close to getting to that upper echelon, it's kind of horrible to see them, like, I don't know if I want to say crumble, but split like this. And I feel like it gives an opportunity for other teams like Nated's team, for example, which is brand new, to maybe get in that spotlight, to take that spot as the upset team. I feel like I want to see a lot of cool things from Nated's team. Nated and Denoxide have been playing together forever, or since like the inception of Halo 5, it seems. They've been a great duo. So I'm curious to see where that goes. I know that there's a great team with Commonly and Straight Sick on it as well. that my friend Callis is coaching right now, and they've been having some amazing like top 8 performances in the 2Ks as well. So there's a lot of other new teams that have been grinding really hard. Meanwhile, well, Trifecta is having this issue. There's a chance that the third or the fourth or the fifth spot might be open for these new teams. So there could be some exciting dynamics, some things we haven't seen before.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. I think once you see a lack in practice, you're going to see some chinks in the armor, which is exactly what we saw with Splice. Splice refusing to practice for a long time. It finally caught up to him, and that was unfortunate. But you've got to learn that training is important. Making sure you get on and practice, make sure you're keeping yourself ready is always going to be, primary. That's huge, is making sure that you're honing your craft, making sure you're getting on and preparing for an event. And so any of these lower echelon teams, like the top 4 or the top 6 tier teams, for this event could definitely out practice the top teams and maybe make an upset happen. I don't think it's too likely that it'll happen with Tox or Splice. But I do think it can happen because, Splice is just one of those teams that they'll get out of something just because of their raw skill, regardless of the fact that they're getting out teamworked. If they're getting outsmarted, it doesn't matter because they're going to be flying at you with the most confidence you ever seen on LAN ever. So, I don't think it's too good to say that they'll get upset, but I definitely can see like a third place happening by one of these lower teams, and that would be really exciting. I mean, seeing them in a losers finals, that would be awesome.
You know what? I think at the end of the day, even if Splice comes out number 1, like if the expected teams land in their expected placements, I think it's about, it's about the journey getting there. I hope that we have so many game 5s. I hope that we have so many situations where teams are just like thrown off and like upset for a moment. They have to come back and like mistakes are being made because people maybe are rusty or whatever. And then they have to, have their confidence and background to build themselves back and to push back. We have insane gameplay. That's hopefully what I'm seeing is just some amazing moments, some amazing stuff to break down. And at this point, I think we've covered a lot of what's happening as far as with HCS and the future of HCS going into Infinite. A lot of exciting things to talk about here. What I wanted to do with this episode, guys, is open it up to the chat, open it up to questions from you guys on Twitter, from you guys on Twitch who are watching, and I would like to know what you guys are saying. So I think actually I'm getting some messages. Okay, here we do. We have some messages. Tony's being awesome. The first one's from Wonderboy. Shout outs to Wonderboy in the chat here. Will both of these guys be in attendance for ATL? Are you going to be at Atlanta, Knighty?
Absolutely. I'll be there. I'll be working with my buddy Wonderboy. We had a successful team out in MLG New Orleans. It was me on the Bravo stream while Wonderboy and Hines were working Alpha. And, I learned so much from them. Wonderboy really taught me a lot. And we're just going to try to bring the best show possible at DreamHack.
Wait, so you're doing what's it called?
Observing.
You're observing with Wonderboy at the event?
I will be.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I didn't even know that. And now, okay, so I haven't confirmed whether or not I can personally make it to Atlanta, but at this point, considering Atlanta is the final like Halo 5 event and considering just everything I've been through up to this point, I can't not go. Okay. So I'm hoping that I can get some help from UGC or somebody like my stream. I'll be grinding my stream a lot more, especially after this. Just to to help me get over, but I'll bite the bullet, guys. I'm like 99% going to be there at this point. So I'm
99, dude. That's not what your fans want to hear, man. They're going to be buying plane tickets. They're going to be getting hotels. They're coming just for you, dude. You can't do this to them. You can't do this.
No. I have to. I can't not go, because if I don't go and I'm watching it from home, then I will be so upset. I'll feel like I've missed the biggest opportunity for a game that I love. That it's the final big event, the big moment to share in the passion and the excitement. I have to be there. So
yes, and compete in Halo 3, man. What are you doing?
I can't compete in Halo 3. I'm gonna get bodied. I can't.
That's okay.
Halo
Take 5. Your losses like a man, Alex. Come on.
Yes, I probably would. We'll see. I got to grind some MCC too. Now I got to analyze MCC as well, because now everybody's talking about MCC. I got to get my ass on that. So we have a bunch of other questions here from Snipey. This is hard to read, but let's go with Snipey. How's the Halo 1 gameplay feel, Knighty?
Well, Master Chief Collection Halo 1 has always been a little wonky because it's Halo 1 PC. And there was always major
Okay.
issues with Halo 1 PC. It never really truly felt like Halo 1. Obviously, the frames are better, but the game just it feels like a shadow of what it truly is. The pistol doesn't
Mm,
shoot quite the same. When you
wow.
get a different host, the host has somewhat of a disadvantage because of the auto aim and the way it works. So that makes things weird because I'm a pistol fiend. I love to go out with my pistol blazing. And I mean,
I
I'll
mean,
get into a
yeah.
fight and I'll hit shots or I'll have my aimer at the same place that where I would normally get a 3-shot. I won't hit a single bullet with an entire clip. So,
Damn, I didn't know that.
it's very inconsistent, but it's still Halo 1. So if you are not able to land Halo 1, which is most people, then it's the only alternative, and it's fun. I mean, you set a timer, you get in there, you play some 2v2s, customs. I've been playing some customs with friends, and
Yeah.
it feels good. You have a good time, you have a few beers, you just forget that you're playing Halo, the Halo 1 PC. I mean,
Yeah.
343's done a good job at fixing all those little things that really annoy you. But nothing's going to beat good old fashioned Halo 1 on an original Xbox.
Yeah, man, that game was so friggin' revolutionary. I remember the only FPS experience I had before Halo 1 was GoldenEye, which GoldenEye was amazing, don't get me wrong. But the fact that you can't control your aimer and you got to use like the C buttons on the controller to like move around diagonally, and then like you have to hold the aimer and then you got to aim while you're standing still and you can like jiggle your character or whatever. It was
Yeah.
just like once you play Halo 1, you're like, what the heck? Why wasn't this a thing like all along? This is how you play first
Oh
person
man,
shooters.
if GoldenEye had LAN, like where you could have like 4 N64s and be in separate
Yeah.
rooms with your
Oh
buddies
my
all
God.
playing, and then you had the
Yeah.
same setup where you could move and aim real fluidly.
Oh
God, that would
yeah.
have been the best.
It would be it would be pretty crazy. The auto aim was insane in that game though, right? So they'd have to like tweak that and then they'd have to like balance because when you play Odd Job in that game, it was not even fair. Like
Oh
he's
no,
half the size of
he's
every
off
other
your
character.
screen.
It's
He's like
BS, dude.
underneath your screen.
Yeah.
He's like
That's
hitting
what
you
I
in the
love
knees.
I love that about classic like video games as well. Is like they throw like balance out the window for that stuff because it didn't matter back then. So they just throw in the character and like he's true, authentic to like the way he would be. Like Jaws is way too large and like he
Oh, he's
takes all the
massive.
hits. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, it was Snipey Snap who said that. So there's two. There's a 1 and a 4 in his name, and I messed it up. But
Oh, it's
Snipey Snap.
Snippy
Thank you
Snap.
for the Halo one. Snippy Snap. Snippy
Yeah,
Snap.
man. He's an OG, man. He's been playing Halo 1 forever. He plays with the top
There you
dogs.
go.
He's a MCC warrior. He's only good online.
Okay. Only good online shots. I'm glad we were able to find, to get his name right there and give us some justice. Thank you for the Halo 1 question. Deadshot Mystic asks, can you ask Shyway if he loves me? I love you so much. Send the hearts. No, I'll be streaming after this. You can ask me, not in person, but you can ask me when I stream. We got Silos. What would your dream announcement be regarding the grassroots initiative at Atlanta? Dream announcement.
Oh, dream announcement. I think we really went over a lot of my optimistic hopes for it, but
Yeah.
if I had
Now
to
you can.
say like the absolute best, it
Yeah.
would be it would be H2A with
Mm,
hit markers taken completely out,
okay.
adding Beaver Creek, or I'm sorry, Battle Creek, or whatever they want to call it,
Add all the maps
as well
that they need to have. Yeah.
as a midship. So adding those 2
Yeah.
maps, I think, could really do it because you can have King of the Hill, Slayer, Oddball, CTF on both those maps, and you can see how it works. And then
Yeah.
obviously the real kicker would be for them to design a spectator mode that's even
Mm.
better than what we have with Halo 5. Now, if that could possibly be, that's just me dreaming. I don't know if that could possibly ever work because I know
Spectator
how
mode would
much
be
of a
amazing. Yeah.
I just know how difficult the programming is with MCC and how much of a nightmare it's been. So I don't see that happening, but that's my dream.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how insane are these dreams allowed to be? Because as far as the grassroots tournaments, like, how sick would it be to have like, okay, not now I'm just being a fanboy, but I was thinking if we could have like Ninja come play and Roy Box and all the personalities be at these grassroots events and like they're being supported in some way by three. It doesn't even make sense. I want all the personalities playing these games, and I want to be able to experience, you know, that excitement with the people that I grew up in, like that inspired me to do what I do today. So I mean,
Oh,
like
well,
any
I
way that
expect
these,
that. I
yeah,
don't think that's
yeah,
going to
right,
be. I don't think that's too much of a dream for me. I think a lot of these people that love Halo, like, you know, the big personalities, they will show their face eventually. I think maybe a
yeah,
T squared. You know, he's got tons of people that love him out there. Maybe
man, yeah,
maybe having Gandhi show up for one event just to say hi in like Atlanta. You know, he lives here now, so maybe he'd show up. You know, if there's Halo 3 like mass with the local grassroots and stuff like that, you can see a lot of old faces in the Halo 1 grassroots, like we've got down in Beachland. I'm sure, you know,
yeah,
Ogre 2 would show up to one. If it really
nice,
gets a lot of backing, if there's prize money to be had, you can guarantee an
right.
Ogre is going to be there.
I'm gonna scoop up some Halo 1 prize money for sure, man. Um, okay, so we've got Save Slayer 13. What are your thoughts on PBL Pro Battle League?
Well, I
You know much?
started with them a long time ago. I was casting, you know, little matches here and there, and then we did a big broadcast for one of their season finals. And I love the idea of it. It's, you know, it's basically taking players from each city and having a
Yep,
captain pick who the best talents are, and
yep,
that's cool. That's like any other sport where it's like you take a location and you have one player pretty much uh, have them dictate who's going to be on the roster. So that's really interesting. I like the whole idea. I don't know how well it's going to play out in the weather of how esports is. You know, it's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. Um, but I do feel like it's going to be something that can grow, and we'll also get to possibly see some newcomers come from it.
yeah,
We did a minor league back in the beginning of Halo 5, and
hmm,
we got to see some rise of some new talent. We got to see Kenny, the guy that's been winning, you know, with TK over in Call of Duty now. We got to see him in
nice.
Halo 5, and he just went off. The man was a
Really?
freak. He was
I don't
so
even know who that
freaking
is.
good. Yeah, he's on Team Caliber.
Okay,
His name was Quavo Kenny. He was just such a good player, really nice
damn.
guy. I met him at a few LAN events, and then obviously Demon D has come back.
Yeah,
Demon D
yeah.
practiced a lot with the minor league, so we're gonna see like that with PBL, have that opportunity with them to maybe to grow some new personalities.
Yeah, no, that is an example of a great grassroots initiative and having actual like representation of it's like what cities or states? How do they balance it out? Or either way, like locations that like you know you it's like having your own local team like sports like you said it's the Overwatch effect as well. I feel like it's the inevitable future of esports on like a grand scale. We're seeing it with Overwatch having you know actual representation like locations representing each team, and then fans are fans of you know their team that's in their local location. It's like the Toronto Maple Leafs here. So I think that's amazing. That has to continue to happen. And if the grassroots initiatives that are happening with 343, like whatever support they're planning on providing, if they can, you know, add that on to PBL and grow PBL as a result and grow the reach of PBL. Because I mean, I'm in Canada over here and there's there's no PBL in Canada right now. But you know, like if they can do that, I think that would be a pretty amazing initiative. I think that
I
would
think they
bring a lot
have
of
been
passion.
dragging. I think they've been dragging players from Canada. So there are a few Canada
They have
players that have
players
been.
like representing. Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Right,
they
right.
play with the Michigan and Ohio teams, I think.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so I think like building on that initiative further and expanding it even more would be pretty awesome to see.
Definitely.
Um, so raw underscore MCC. Okay, I'd like to ask if they can watch the last trend Halo 3 montage and say current Halo can say current Halo can ever be like that. I'm confused. What's the last trend Halo 3 montage? Tony, what are you
Yeah,
sending me?
I is
Tony's
that a
just like
joke?
I IDK, disregard. I'm sorry, dude. Okay, we're not at that level yet. We're not at the level where I could click a link immediately and watch an
It's just
entire
too advanced for
montage.
us, man. You got to keep it simple.
Hopefully, CC, I'm sorry. Hopefully, in the near future, we can start to implement that. We'll watch stuff and react to it at the same time. I feel like that's like
reaction videos. Let's do it. Yeah.
Reaction video. Yeah, man. Heck, sky's the limit. It's the Halo show. All right.
There you go.
So Silos again. We got at UGC. What would be your dream grassroots? Wait, we already had that. Your dream grassroots announcement. What would you like to bring back from different? Okay, Tony, you're just repeat sending me questions here. BTB underscore Bill. Who do you think wins the Halo 3 2v2 at Atlanta? I can't answer this question. Do you happen to know who's like?
Oh yeah, I've been following it pretty closely. Me being such a Halo 3 fan, wishing that I could compete in that 2v2. I mean that is just, oh man, I've been playing it a lot, and I'm loving every bit of it. And from what I've seen, there's been some individuals that have really surprised me. And I'd say one of those would probably be a guy named, gosh, what's his name? He lives in Atlanta. I think it's Cranium. I don't quote me on that, but I think he goes by Fire as well, Cranium or Fire. And the man is just really, really good. His name's Preston. And I've been watching him. I played some games with him. He carried the living crap out of me against some of the best players in Halo 3. And like we just demolished them. And I was like, how did we do that? And meanwhile, I'm looking at his stats, and he's just putting up like 25 kills a game. The man's just dominating. I know he's been in like the top 4 of a bunch of online tournaments. I think he's had a few different teammates, but that guy's to definitely be someone to look out for because he's on his home turf. Yeah, I've always been one of those guys that feels better when I'm competing near my home. The closer I am to home, the better I'm going to play. And I think that might be something that happens for a lot of players. So watch out for him. But I think the best bet is going to be Fantasy and Gabriel.
Okay, Fantasy and Gabriel. What about Evader? Does he have a team?
Evader does have a team, and Evader is definitely a guy that's been impressing me.
One of those guys up there.
Another guy is in NYC. NYC is just super, super duper consistent, and he's one of those guys that has those attitudes. Just very, very calm, good demeanor. Doesn't let any like horrible plays get to him. He's always constantly trying to lead the team. So whoever his teammate is going to be real comfortable at a LAN setting. I know NYC's been to a few LANs, so he's gonna, he's probably not gonna have the nerves as bad as some of these players that this is going to be their first major. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of talent.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm unfortunately not going to be coming into this with a lot of knowledge. Instead, I feel like I'm just going to have my notebook out and I'm taking notes and trying to learn. I'm here to study. No, I'd like to see how it goes. I'm curious too. It's a 2v2, not a 4v4. So the gameplay, the way that they play is going to be a little bit different. Very heavily focused on power weapon control in like certain areas of the map too. Like watching Guardian and just controlling the OS and having the sniper rifle or the shotgun and like that general area of the map would be like
no shotgun.
There's no shotgun in it. See, I don't even know. All right, I'm gonna stop talking before I sound like a total idiot. I'm gonna be learning about the 2v2 as I watch it. But but
it's okay. Overall, we forgive
you. Overall, the speed of the gameplay, the way that like control works in Halo like 2v2s seems different than the 4v4 style gameplay. So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. Yeah. Okay. At UGC, besides so Ryan CC. Once again, besides the obvious fact that Halo used to be more immersive and simple, what do casters think could bring the game back to the fast-paced, universally loved state of Halo 2 and 3?
All right, so to clarify, he's asking pretty much who are the 2 best casters for the Halo 3 broadcast? Okay. Well,
no, I guess saying, so what do the casters think could bring the game back to the fast-paced, universally loved state of Halo 2 and 3. So not necessarily the casters. Yeah. So like what can they do with the next version of like Halo Infinite to bring it back to, being loved in the same way that Halo 2 and Halo 3 was, just unanimously?
Okay. Well, first of all, you got to realize that people do love the new Halos. Like I've talked to people, there are people that are new that come into Halo, and they love Halo 5, they love H2A, they love Halo 4. And as a player that's been around since the beginning, I can't fathom that. But it's kind of where you start. It's like, oh, well, this was my first Halo, and this is what I'll always love the most. That kind of seems to be the common theme with that. But there's going to be a ton of people that fall in love with the new Halo, especially with as much buzz as it's got going on. As far as gameplay implementation and what they can change, I do think it's going to be going back to the basics. I don't think they're going to take out sprint. I think they're going to keep it consistent. So? I think they'll keep it consistent. You know, they're going to test it. You know, they're going to see what the reactions are. But the thing about sprint is that it's in every game. You know, it's in Overwatch. It's in, you know, it's in Paladins. It's in Call of Duty. It's in Battlefield. It's in all of the big first-person shooters. Even Counter-Strike has a way that you can move faster getting out your knife. So there's always that ability to be able to move faster, and that's what people want. You know, we're in that modern era of where people want things to get done a lot quicker. So it's like, okay, we'll speed up the time to kill, speed up our movement, you know, make things more exciting on camera. So that's what people are looking for. And honestly, I don't really agree with it, but I think that's where we're going to be headed. If they take out the things like ground pound, which, you know, they already did for HCS, which I think is a big improvement. Shoulder charge, which they did, which was great. If they keep those out and they keep it consistent with what we're at, where, you know, you can pretty much just hover and clamber at this point. You know, you sprint, hover, and clamber. And I think that'll be fine. And then it all comes down to map design. Map design is critical. It's a crucial part of any first-person shooter. Look at Counter-Strike. Dust 1 and Dust 2, those maps were played every single time I got on that game, and they never got old. I still play Dust 2, and I enjoy it. I love the heck out of it. It never gets old. So having maps like that you can just get on the game and always have a good time, that's critical. I don't think people really understand how big the map design was for those older Halos. Having maps like the Pit and Construct, maps that I can play over and over and over and over. You know, it's just like League of Legends, setting up the board and having that one board for the entire span of the game.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I think maps is going to play a big part in it. I think, you know, last week when we were talking to Mikwin, he raised a good point. He said it just has to be fun. And by fun, he means like just the amount of time between those moments that you're having fun. Like you want to shorten that timeline. So basically, if you're tightening the maps up and increasing the amount of engagement, so players are getting into battles more often, they're having fun more often, they feel like, you know, they're getting into the game, immediately getting that satisfaction. Whatever you can do to kind of increase that. I don't know what they're going to do as far as the abilities go, because you're right. Sprint is something that is like just unanimous. It's across all games at this point. It's standard. Everybody expects sprint. But at the same time, when I think about all the mechanics in the game, if they could remove one mechanic and still have an insane amount of depth in Halo 5, I think sprint would be the one mechanic that they could move. Because if you remove sprint, yes, you remove, you know, your thrust, slide, jump, like stabilize your insane super jump, but you can still spring jump, and your spring jump kind of does the same thing. If you spring, thrust, stabilize, you can get just as high, right? So there's still a lot of, you know, competitive nuances that go into that. And if you have like a decent base movement speed and you have graphical animations that make it look like the Spartan is actually moving at a high speed, you know what I mean? You can still have a lot of depth and have a lot of abilities that work really well with gameplay and tighten, and it would allow you then to tighten the map so that you'd have engagements more often. I don't know. I want there to be abilities to some extent because I like that diversity in movement. I think movement becoming a big pillar of Halo with Halo 5 is an amazing thing to have. And I'm a really movement focused gamer, so I hope they have a lot of that. But they definitely need a balance, and they need that fun factor. Like you got to jump in, have a good time, whether you're a bad player, a good player. It's the Fortnite effect. It doesn't matter how good you are. You can jump in, you can have fun. And then if you're amazing, there's a just boundless level of technical depth available to you if you're an amazing player, you know? So it's a tough dynamic to balance. I think it's possible. And you're right. They do have to communicate with the community. like often. They have to have betas for this game. We have to try things. We have to have a back and forth, and make sure that just everything goes right. And as far as maps go, like they got to stop just like designing and releasing maps that aren't made for competitive. Like, for example, what purpose does a map like Molten serve in anything in Halo? You know what I mean? Like, unless you're playing like the triple team playlist and it's just for fun. But I feel like if they're gonna make, you can make big team battle maps that are big and not competitive. But if you're gonna make a map that's for 4v4, make it with competitive play in mind. Like, make it perfect for competitive play, because if you're playing casually on a map that's perfect for competitive play, it's still fun. You can still, and you could add forge pieces to it and you know, manipulate it in whatever way you want. If you want it to be infection or whatever, it's still awesome. But Molten like serves no purpose. You know what I mean? Like, they spend all that time designing a map that looks cool, but it's got no competitive like capability whatsoever. Why do that? Why waste the energy? Like, every map should be designed with competitive in mind.
I see what you're saying, but also looking back in Halo 1, a lot of the design was not built around competitive. Most of those maps, I think Battle Creek was one of the ones that really speaks to me the most as like, oh, okay, this is definitely a competitive map. You've got two bases, you've got the middle of the map, you got a portal that can go back and forth to opposite sides. But all in all, if you look like at Damnation, I mean, that looks like a mess. It honestly looks like a mess. But when you play it, there's so much depth to it because of the ability that you have as a player. You can grenade down power-ups. You can grenade power weapons to yourself. Those really make the game interesting. And that's another thing that I'd like to see going forward into Infinite, is being able to see power-ups being able to be naded down off of platforms, or being able to get you know, a little bit more in depth with the power-up system, because it seems like we're lacking in that. We're just grabbing power-ups, shoving it into our chest, and that's pretty much, that's it. You know, like I'd like to see more with the power-ups.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong about Halo 1, though, but that is also like the first game of the franchise. And I feel like people are a little bit more lenient with what to expect. Like, competitive was designed off of the foundation that Halo 1 laid. So I feel like, you know, there was more flexibility there. People weren't expecting, you know, an insane amount of competitive design for these maps.
Lightning
on
in
top
a
of
bottle.
the fact that, like, sure, yeah, and it's not like Damnation had a massive fire lava thing coming down that if you touch it you die. You know what I mean? Like, if there are things in maps that kill you if you make a slight mistake and the map kills you, like, come on, you know?
Oh,
like,
you've been talking to Micklin.
I don't know.
Did you ever
it
see
just
that
seems silly.
clip of Micklin dying top middle in like a really close game? It was like a Slayer that I think he was only one kill behind, and he had the sniper, and he was absolutely going off with it. And then someone shoots the
icicles,
the icicle.
Yeah,
the big old stalactite kills him, and he loses snipe, and they lose the game. And it was all because of that one play. He was about to make a huge play, and I totally agree.
And then his career was over. He retired, and we've never seen Micklin since. It's so unfortunate. Okay. We got a couple more here. Assertive, what are the odds any H2A tournaments? Okay, I'm going to do this one more time. Assertive asks, what are the odds of any H2A tournaments before Infinite?
Odds, I definitely couldn't give it to you. Like we've read so far, it's all about grassroots. So it's who wants to take the initiative and go in and make a H2A tournament happen. So I don't see the demand for H2A really happening. My dream for the H2A was mainly for like HCS and them, implementing the new maps and the observer mode. That was the part of the dream, was the pro scene, having it online, having it like a consistent pro league, because I think people interacting with having 2 days each week that they can get on and enjoy some top level Halo is a big aspect to all esports. I think that's very important. But if we're going to talk about the odds, I don't think there's very good odds. I think Halo 3 after this event is going to show why it was so dominant. It was at the prime time, the peak of Halo. Is people love that game. The game still looks good. It's got a nice little fresh paint job. It's in 4K. It looks crisp. It plays crisp. It's got LAN capability. You can just get 2 Xboxes. and host a tournament at your local GameStop. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. Right.
So I think Halo 3 is really has the best chance of getting the most support.
You're right. You're right. Like not only is Halo 3 a great game, but it's easy to set up. Like if you think about 343 and where their resources are split right now, like I really, really want them to add more maps to H2A and to have the spectator support. Because I feel like H2A is an incredibly solid game. Like I was pissed off that they took out the button combos and everything with the BXR, the double shot. I feel like they should have had that from the get-go, and that would have been amazing. But despite that, the game, like it plays amazingly well. It feels amazing to shoot, and to, all interactions in that game like work. It's limited. You got 3 maps. You recycle it over and over, and it gets repetitive, and you don't have a spectator mode. If they somehow built that out, there's so much potential with a game like H2A. But yeah, like you said, H3, not only is it great, it's the easy option. So it seems like that's going to be the focus, at least in the short term, and we'll see what happens as things continue onwards in the future. Nader Hater asks Knighty if he can finally thrust in H5. Ooh. Can you thrust?
Man, I tell you what, that was always the issue, because I didn't have bumpers, or I didn't have the paddles.
So you had to thumb off
had an elite or a scuff, or any of those. So I was SOL whenever I was in a fight. And I had to thrust. I was going to get my ankles broken. I've had my ankles broken so many darn times. I've had to pretty much just base my movement and my gameplay around not being able to thrust at the last second. And that really has hindered me.
No wonder your experience with Halo 5 wasn't quite as good then. You know what I mean? Because I feel like the love for Halo 5 comes with mastery of the thrust. When to thrust, being able to thrust when you want to thrust perfectly, knowing how to use the thrust, how it interacts with different areas of the environment. Right? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing, is like, yes, classic Halo is great. It works great. But when you master the thrust, man, it's a totally different landscape. Halo 5 is a pretty amazing game. You gotta master the thrust, dude. You gotta claw your controller. You gotta lift your thumb off the right stick and sacrifice that moment in time. I don't know.
It's very true, very true. But I did invest in an elite, so I do have that capability now. If I decide to, I did not. I like the black. Black is my style.
Man, I heard that they made a very slight tweak with the white controller where the sticks perform a little bit better. Like they fixed something with like drift and slow turn. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like spouting absolute bullshit, but
no, it makes sense.
But I'm pretty sure I heard
make it better. You can't just be a different color.
I mean, that's literally what it is. I don't want to get angry about this, but it is literally a different color. So I'm really hoping that at least there's that tiny little tweak. But 3 years later, new elite controller, it's white. Oh man, don't get me started. Okay. Anyway, Nader Hater once again. What's Knighty's favorite Halo 1 map?
Oh, it's got to be Prisoner, man. Every time I play that map, I get a special feeling in my thumbs. My thumbs come to life. It's like I'm 16 all over again.
Yeah.
Prisoner is just one of those maps where it requires so much activity up here. You're constantly thinking about your next move, about where you need to spawn your teammate, about the timing that you need to poke out and team shoot the guy with OS, or to bait the rockets in the camo, when to go for the camo and the rockets. It's truly a game of chess at the fastest pace possible. It is an amazing map. It never gets old. I even enjoyed playing it in Reach for a little bit. They came out with it in Reach for the H2 or the anniversary. It was the Halo anniversary when Halo 1 was remade. But yeah, I've just always enjoyed that map. That map never seems to get old. It's the first map I want to play when I sit down to a LAN, and it's the last one I want to play when I'm about to leave.
Yeah. I mean, not only is it pretty tight, like there's a lot of close quarter scenarios, there's a lot of verticality though too, right? So you're like constantly looking around, you're constantly trying to react to what's happening in your environment. So yeah, I imagine that map would be mayhem. And yes, that actually is our final question. We've covered quite a lot today. It's awesome to actually be able to have some chat interaction. So thank you everybody who asked questions. I hope we get more and more questions because it's added so much to this interview. It's been a lot of fun. Knighty, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Do you have any shout outs? Where can we find Knighty Knight?
Well, I definitely am going to be playing a ton of Blackout. I've been enjoying the heck out of some Call of Duty, but you can
Yeah.
also find me on some Master Chief Collection. I'll be playing some Halo 3, Halo 2. I enjoy the heck out of that as well. If you guys want to hit me up, I'll be playing that. And then also, I'll be at DreamHack. So you guys can all see me there and make sure you say hi.
And where can we find Knighty Knight on social media?
Oh, what?
That's what I was
uh,
asking. Yeah, but I mean,
well,
we can find you on those games too. If you guys want to play games with Knighty Knight, yeah, we got right there, Knighty's Night. That's his Twitter. What about Twitch? Are you doing any streaming? You gonna try
uh, I
streaming?
I don't do the streaming thing. I've always meant to
Mhm.
maybe start some content on YouTube. Maybe that day will be coming soon. But I
Wait, yeah,
usually
make some YouTube content. Yeah.
yeah, I definitely plan on it. I really want to start it up. I mean, I'm loving what you're doing. What you've been doing has been killing it. It's exactly
Thank
what
you.
we've needed to get people excited about the analytical part of Halo, really dissecting it. I mean,
Thanks, man.
that's fun. That is fun. Anybody that cares about improving their game is going to enjoy the hell out of your videos.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about, and I felt it was about time somebody got excited about Halo for once. How many years has got to go by? No, I don't know, but yeah, man, awesome time talking to you today. So many things that we had to
Yeah, man.
cover, so much happening in HCS, and despite the fact that at first glance seems like bad news, there's actually a lot of optimism. There's a lot of potential here, a lot of support for grassroots initiatives. We could see some amazing things between now and Halo Infinite, and I hope Halo Infinite is coming up nice and soon, and I'm excited to see what holds there. But thank you for coming on the show, Knighty Knight. Have a good night, man.
See you, man.
Thank you guys once again for another episode of HCS Weekly. I'm your host, Shyway. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I got one more thing I'd like to talk about if you want to support the show, support the stream. We also have some HCS Weekly merch. And Tony, you better send me some goddamn merch so I can wear the merch. We can talk about the merch with me wearing the merch so people actually know what it looks like. But here you go, guys. We got merch. And this merch, not only do you support HCS Weekly, you support UGC, you support me as well. So if you purchase anything, I get a cut of the profits. You help out poor old Shyway here. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's some pretty badass stuff too. And I'm going to be trying it on and showcasing it for you and enticing you to get some too. Maybe we'll be wearing some at Atlanta. We'll see how it goes. But thank you guys once again for joining me on the show. Hope you have a good night. I'll see you around.